Cynthia here. Welcome if you're watching me for the first time. If not, welcome back. It's been a while, sis. So yeah, grab a cup of tea because it's going to be a long one and I'm about to get really vulnerable, so please be mindful that just be kind because yeah, let me just get into it. Okay, so it's been a couple of months I've been away from social media, predominantly YouTube and Instagram, and I just wanted to come back because I've created so much content and I want you guys to see it. However, I just feel like I can't start again without like explaining what has happened, you know, leading up to where I am today. So this is the hardest thing I've had to do. Oh, okay, here we go. So a couple of months ago, I was pregnant. It's the happiest moment ever. Well, obviously the happiest moments when I have Ossie, and this was the second happiest moment. And obviously the fact that we did have a bit of gap between my first son, it was an overjoyed occasion in my family. My husband was so happy. I think I will post a video of, I'll post it in the next one. The next video will be that, because I just feel like it was a beautiful moment and I wanted to share that. This is October. I'm creating this video during a child loss of every kind month, and I just wanted to address this. Yeah, so here we go. So I've always been one to view grief from like an outside looking in, which most of you watching this are in that position, and you guys are so lucky. You are the luckiest people ever if you've never experienced what I'm talking about, and I pray you never experience it. If you still have plans on having more kids, I pray you never experience it. I would never wish this on my worst enemy, not that I even have one, but regardless of that, it happened to myself and my family out of nowhere. And I don't think, for clarity's sake, I'm not gonna specify how many months it was, because I'm gonna give a reason in the end how many months my baby was. But yeah, that was my baby. We had a huge connection. I had a huge connection with my baby. I knew I was pregnant before I was even found out I was pregnant, so I had a strong connection. I had dreams of my baby. Yeah, Ossie was bonded so much with my baby. So yeah, my baby was very much there and growing and thriving. Yeah, so the moments that every woman that is pregnant always dreads. So I was in the kitchen cooking, and I just felt this rush of liquid, and I knew that you're pregnant, you shouldn't be feeling a rush of any liquid whatsoever. So yeah, I ran upstairs. My husband saw me running upstairs and he was just like obviously apprehensive. I ran upstairs and did the dreaded wipe, and lo and behold, there was blood. The tissue was soaked. Sorry to be graphic. The tissue was soaked, and I screamed, and I was like, babe, come. And he ran up and he came. Sorry, this is the most uncomfortable thing I've had to do, and please just be kind, because yeah, so he came up, hugged me. He was like, don't worry, it's nothing. I said, no, we need to go into the hospital because it is not nothing. The baby has developed a lot for this to be implantation bleeding or any sort of thing that happens like that in the first trimester kind of thing. So I said, let's go in. He, you know, we called in, and we're advised to go into A&E because of my previous history. I have a blood disorder, that's by the way, but we rushed into A&E, and yeah, hours and hours later, I was seen, and I was praying all this while. Bear in mind, like, I would describe myself as a prayer warrior. I was praying all this time, and because we have a little one, my husband was at home with him. Like, well, he was parked in the parking lot and had to go home. It was a long thing because we couldn't all be together in the A&E unit. But anywho, I got seen and I stayed over the night. So in the morning, the earliest hours of the morning, I was seen and I had an ultrasound done. Sorry, my voice is so low. Yeah, so I got an ultrasound done and they saw my baby. And when I looked into that ultrasound, I swear to you, the connection, like, you could feel it. You could feel it. Like, I was just sending all this message to my baby, like, pull through, be strong, you got this. God is protecting you. Like, we are on the altar of fire. We are NSBPDNs. You are fine, my love. You are fine, my daughter. I know it's a girl. Anywho, sorry. So yeah, fast forward to they tell me that, oh, your baby's fine, the heartbeat is so strong. Yeah, your baby's fine, your heartbeat's so strong. I was there looking at my baby. This baby was kicking like a strong baby, you know, in the ultrasound. I was like, yes. I was like, the devil will never win, you know. God is good, God is gracious to me. And I will continue to serve God and just serve God in my mind. I was just so happy and overwhelmed with peace. But I was still bleeding. And even while they were doing it, I was still bleeding. So they told me they're going to discharge me home and I should check back in if anything gets worse or if the bleeding increases. So I went home, bear in mind, I was bleeding for that week. A whole week of bleeding. I was still praying every day, like, God, even though I'm bleeding, they said my baby's okay. I know you're going to protect my baby. Like, you know, I was just, my faith, I always describe that my faith have never been as strong as it was in that week. Like, you could not tell me anything. I knew my baby was there. I knew my baby was going to pull through. And then another time, a week later, I think I can't remember what I was doing, Sha. But you know when, the only way I can describe it, yeah, is someone just turned on a tap inside me and it was like whoosh. So yeah, the intensity of the bleeding had tripled, even quadrupled, honestly. Out of nowhere, it was just like whoosh, and I could feel it. It literally just, you could feel when that much energy, that much liquid left you. And I was like, whoo. I was like, babe, I need help. And then I went upstairs, and even as I just sat down, it was just like a tap. It was scary. It was like a tap. And I was like, oh, I started crying, and I clots start passing, and I was like, oh God, oh God. And yeah, found my way to the A&E again. This time around, they knew who I was, so it was much quicker. However, I still, when I say much quicker, I mean like about 4 hours, because the last time I was there for like 7 hours before I was seen, but this time was about 4 hours, so it was much quicker, considerably. So bear in mind the pain. It's breaking my heart because I feel like I'm relieving the ordeal while talking about this, but I need to. It's part of my coping process that I need to do this, despite a lot of advice of people saying, oh no, don't, I'll talk about that later. But the pain I went through while I was in the hospital, I swear, I was this close to rolling on the floor of the A&E. That is how painful, agonizing pain, excruciating. Like, I can't even remember the pain from labor, but I know it was excruciating, but I don't know what this was because I didn't have no gas and air. Like, this pain was crippling. I remember a nurse passed and she was like, are you okay? And I literally had to type it on my phone because I could not talk. And I said, I feel like I'm dying. And the lady was like, oh my God. And then she like went to the triage people trying to escalate my situation because I felt like I was dying. I was in that much pain. Bear in mind, I was on my own here. It was a horrible time. And while I was in pain, you could still feel the rushing blood. Just with everything in me, I just kept praying to God. God, please, please, please. I've never asked you, I've never begged you for anything as much as I'm begging you to just make my baby be okay. Like, yeah, long story short, I was admitted in the hospital. I was there for a week in total, and I don't know what accent I have on, but anyway, I was there for a week in total, Sharon. And after a day in the hospital, was it a day? I don't know, Sharon, but it was the next day. It wasn't the day I went in. I had an ultrasound. And you know, you just know the ultrasound for when your baby's okay and the ultrasound for when your baby is not okay is very different. It's very different. The lady that was doing ultrasound, she started acting dodgy. First of all, she was trying to turn the monitor away from me, and I was like, no, don't turn the monitor away from me. Like, I'm not a child. I want to be able to see it. I saw my baby last week, and I know I will see my baby again this week. I was so confident. I was singing our NSPPD anthem. I was singing, God, what you cannot do does not exist. Like, I was just singing and praying and begging God, like, God, do this for me. And yeah, the lady, her face dropped. I was looking at her face. I'm so good at reading faces. And I saw her face drop, and she looked at the other lady that was in the room, and she turned around to me. And bear in mind, the screen was still kind of tilted away. And she just said, I'm so sorry. And I swear, in that moment, my heart left my chest and went into the pit of my stomach. I was like, no, don't be sorry. Nothing's wrong. I was in so much denial. I was like, no, I'm sorry, that has to be, you've got this wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, like, I'm not telling you how to do your job, but something is wrong. That is not my baby. My baby's fine. I was so, bear in mind, I was doing all this on my own. man, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I really wouldn't. I think at that moment, it just, you know, when you fall, you like a bungee jump is holding you and you jump off and you're just falling, and surely you're meant to reach the end of the rope and it's meant to pull you back up. But my situation, how I felt, was I just kept falling. I was just falling. My heart was gone. I was just falling deeper and deeper into this hole, and my goodness. Yeah. They told me the dreaded thing, and I was numb. I was numb. I didn't say anything to her. I said, let me see my baby. She said, there's nothing they can see on the ultrasound. And I said, no, because last week you guys printed, I still had the printout of my baby from last week. And I said, this is my baby, so you need to show me my baby. And she was like, the baby is so far down that they can't even see the baby. When they found my baby, they were like, oh. I was like, so how do you know that my baby's not okay? I kept asking them. I was like, so by looking at that, what can you see? He was like, yeah, the baby's upside down and it is not attached. Oh, sis, man. Those words just blur. They just blurred out. They just blurred out. After I heard, I'm sorry, everything was a blur. I'm not lying to you. Anywho, they moved me into another place and they just gave me a minute, and I just cried. I cried so much. Like I've never cried before. I cried so much. And then my husband called and I cried even more. I called him on video call and I cried even more. And he was like, I'm coming right now, even if they don't let me there. I'm coming with OC. I'm coming. We're coming in. And I say, okay, come. But yeah. I was so numb. I think I was numb for like a month straight. I was numb. Do you know why I was numb? Because I never believed that this will happen to me. And I didn't even mean that in an overconfident way. I didn't mean that in like a cocky way or nothing. I just, you know when you know your walk with God? You know when you know you're so sure of your walk with God? You're so sure of the authority you command when you open. You know that when you feel like, when I wake up, the devil is shaking. That's how strong I was in prayer. That's how strong I was like, nah. I was like, no, this will be my testimony. I'll have a testimony at the end of this. I was broken. I was so broken. So broken, man. But that situation humbled me. It humbled me. This part of the video I wanted to talk to you about things I remember and things that has come about in my healing process. I just want to discuss that with you in case there's someone going through this right now, or if you know someone that is going through this, feel free to send my video over to them. So I think there was something my husband said in the hospital, outside the hospital, and he even kept saying it when we went inside. He kept telling the nurses, he was like, listen, I've only got one wife and I love her so much, and we've got a son that needs his mom, so please, whatever you guys have to do, please, my wife has to come home. My wife has to come. He kept saying that. He kept lamenting on it, like, my wife has to come home, she's all I've got. And it made me so emotional, but it just made me know that, you know, we're in this together. And he was like, listen, babe, you know, we will be fine. You know, we God gave us one, God gave us the second one, and God will give us more if it's his will. And you know, those things really helped me. I won't lie, like, my husband was the real MVP in this whole situation. He was by my side all through. Linking after OC, just being there for me, calling me a million times. And then when the visitation, he was allowed to come into the hospital during visitation times while I was admitted. He was always by my side, reassuring me. Even postpartum, while I was at home, you know, through my depression, through the grieving process, he was just there by my side, just being there for me. Obviously he's grieving as well because he lost a child, but just putting all that aside just to make sure that I was okay, and you know, being there for me and just protecting her. Yeah, he was the real MVP. So I mentioned in the first part that I was so humbled by this situation. I didn't think I delved into it, so I'm going to describe what I meant by I was so humbled. And I wrote all these things down during those processes because I just knew that writing and journaling really helped me. But so when I said I was humbled, I meant that, you know, people as Christians, we base like our resilience, or we base so much we just feel that because of we are Christians, or because of our walk with God, that adversities isn't going to happen to us, which was a very naive way of me thinking, that adversities, that I'm immune to trials, that I'm immune to like horrible experiences, I'm immune to grief. And it wasn't the case for me. But that does not change who God is. It does not change who God is. God is gracious. God is so good. And even through my grief, it was the hardest thing. But I said, I tried my best, and I had great people around me. My sister, my parents, my in-laws, my mother-in-law was so good. My friends. I had friends that would just call and pray for me. They would just call and pray for me. I had friends that sent food to my house because I don't know if they knew that I just couldn't bring myself to even get to the kitchen and cook. I had food delivery to my house. I had a friend that wasn't even Nigerian, but she stopped by a Nigerian shop on her way here from London. She doesn't even drive well, and she drove from London, stopped by a shop that sells food, I think Tasty or something in London, and she bought so much food, and she brought it here. She was like, listen sis, I know that cooking is the last thing on your mind, but you gotta eat, and your son gotta eat. And I know my husband was trying, he was cooking and stuff like that, but I just had no appetite. But that helped me. That, like, I put them in the freezer, and like when I did have the appetite, I ate. Like, but little things like that. I had friends that ordered flowers that showed up at my door. My sister, she went above and beyond. She cooked food, brought for me. Like, she was just always here for me. Like, I do not take people like that for granted, and till I die I will never take them for granted, because that was the lowest point of my life, and they showed up and showed out. And you know, when you say that it takes things like this happening for you to see people that are really in your corner, but it was so sad that this was what it took. But my goodness, I was so humbled by the love, the outpouring of love that obviously God sent to me when I needed it. If you're a friend right now, and your friend or someone you know is going through this, and you don't know what to do or what to say, I think just being there for them. There's nothing you can't say, and don't try to say things, because you might bumble up your words or say something that even hurts them more. Number one, don't even ask how old the baby was. I feel like that was probably one of the most triggering questions. Why does it matter if my baby was 3 weeks old, if my baby was 3 months old, if my baby was 9 months old, if my baby was 7 months old? That my baby matters. So please do not ask that question, please. It really does not matter if that baby was 2 weeks old or if that baby was 2 months. It does not matter. That was the baby, and that baby mattered. Another thing I'd advise is like, you know, all the cliche words like, oh, don't worry, God will give you another one, or you're someone said something to me, or you're lucky you have, at least you have one. And I know the person didn't mean it from a bad place, but it's like, please do not say these things to people. I even had one lady, God bless her, because she was so mortified when I did tell her. She was like, oh Cynthia, you're getting so fat, are you sure you're not pregnant? This was like a few days after I'd lost my baby. It's like, are you sure you're not fat? Are you sure you're not? No, she was like, oh Cynthia, you're adding so much weight too. Look at your hips, you're adding so much weight, are you sure you're not pregnant? And I just looked at her and I was like, I just lost my baby. You don't say things like that to people, because you do not know what they're going through. And I always see this thing, I always see it, but it happened to me in my own eyes. I could not believe it. I was like, people have confidence. People really have confidence. You look someone in the eye and you do not know what they're going through. And I've had people that will call me up and I'm like, sis, you know, OC needs another sibling, or OC needs another sibling, or okay, come and buy a sibling for me. Come and raise a sibling. Okay, now that I'm going through this, they're nowhere to be found. Why? Because they don't care. They just want to, like, you know, push all this pressure onto you, not even caring or knowing what you're going. I'm sorry, this has gone off a tangent now, because this really triggered me. It really did. It really did. It was just so insensitive, such an insensitive thing to say, but that's by the way. I feel like grief really has changed me. It's changed me in a way that I feel Like, I mourn the girl I was before this, because I was so carefree, I was so happy, jolly, I was just and it breaks my heart because, and this is one thing that I do address in therapy, that I feel like I've lost that girl. I feel like I really genuinely have lost her. I don't know where she is. I really don't. I watch videos of me when I was so happy and carefree, and I miss that Cynthia. I really do. And I pray, that's one of my prayers, that God restores unto me the happiness that I lost. That is one of my prayers. That God really just restores the happiness, because I lost that happiness on that day that I lost my baby. I really did. I really did. And a huge part of me I left there with my baby. And that was one part I didn't even mention in the last part. That while I was in the hospital, you know, people mourn. The natural cause of mourning, or the natural root of mourning, is it's an external thing, where you go, you're mourning someone has died, you're mourning them. But for a baby to die inside you, and you still carry that baby, and then people don't even realize that you still have to pass that baby out, like giving birth to a baby that's not alive, like that messed me up. It really traumatized me. And that's what I mean by I left my, like, a huge chunk of my happiness was left there, because how do you grieve a baby that you never met? How do you grieve a baby that had this world's hopes and dreams ahead of them? And I see my son Osi, and he's just the most beautiful human being, not even externally, which he is. Such a happy little boy. He is so kind, he is so caring, he's so loving, and I'm just like, I feel like I've robbed him of a sibling. I see him playing in the living room on his own, and I'm just like, he could have been playing with his little sister. Like, I often wonder, would she have looked like? You know, would she look like him? You know, would she look like my husband? Because obviously looks like me. Argue with yourself. But yeah, that part breaks me, because I'm just like, I just will never know. I will never know. And I remember praying when my baby did pass, and this was the irony of it. I didn't even mention this part. This was the irony of it, was that I still remember the time I gave birth to OC, which was 2/23 exactly. That's when his birth said 2/23, and that is like my birthday, because I'm very like spiritual and science, like I'm into all that. And he was born at 2/20, and I remember just looking up to God, and I was like, God, may your name be glorified, because you've shown me this sign. I know that this boy is a child of greatness, and things like that. And just guess what time I lost my baby? It wasn't 2 p.m. in the afternoon, but it was 2 a.m. 2 a.m. when my baby physically passed out of me. And obviously I prayed over my baby. It was 2 a.m. and although I didn't have my phone, I remember I texted my husband before I went to speak to the nurses. And while I was speaking to the nurses, because I let me just talk about it. So when we went over, when like the morning after, I was meant to have an evacuation. Let me describe what it is. I won't describe it. It's just basically they do like the doctor people, they evacuate the baby, the remains of the baby. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. That was scheduled today because the baby hadn't passed. So they said, okay, that the next day they might do this, just so I don't have any complications or anything inside. And I said, okay, but I want to pray about it. And they were like, okay, fair enough. So that night I did not have peace in my mind. I was praying, I wasn't getting peace. And I went, so basically at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I made a decision, okay, I'm going to go and tell the head nurse that I'm cancelling the evacuation tomorrow. I do not have peace about the evacuation, because if my baby's truly gone, then my baby should come out naturally. That way I know that my baby has passed peacefully and everything, I know. But I'm not gonna, just because of one ultrasound, go and like, what if my baby's actually alive? Like, I had such hope that my baby was alive, and it was just a false reading by that lady. Maybe she didn't know what she was doing. She doesn't know how to do her job. You know, that's what I was thinking. So I got off from the bed, struggled because I was in so much pain, and I was walking to the nurse, and I went over to tell her, and I sat down to tell her that, listen, I don't feel confident with the evacuation tomorrow. Can they cancel it so that the doctors don't come to me? I'm not doing it. And then they asked me, and I explained everything to them, that I just don't have peace in my mind. I've prayed about it and I don't have peace, and I'm not doing it, and that is it. And that was what I said to them, because you need to have body autonomy, you need to have stand up for yourself, and that's what I was doing. And they were like, okay, no problem, don't worry, we're here for you, whatever you decide. And as I stood up, so when I left my bed, it was 2:20. I remember looking at my phone because I texted my husband, and and it was like 2:15ish. I think the message was like 2:15 or 2:16. So by the time I'd got over to that nurse and talked to her, I knew by the time I came back, anywho, it was between that time, 2:20 something, when my baby physically like dropped. You know, there are moments that you didn't know you were strong. That was one of those moments, because I burst into tears, because now it was like, yeah, my baby really is gone, because I can feel my baby out, like, you know. So the nurse, she was such an angel nurse, a South African woman. So she walked with me to the toilet and helped me, and I prayed over my baby. I had a moment with my baby. I prayed, and you know, just had closure. I had closure, and that was the moment where I just knew that I don't know if I'll ever be the same. I don't know if I'll ever be just a carefree, happy girl. But God willing, and God's gracious kindness, I pray that I do get that person back. But regardless of that, I remember that I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I didn't lose my positive spirit. Like, despite the fact I was going through such a traumatic moment, I remember the next day when I was going out of the ward, because I was in a wheelchair. They were pushing me out of, like, assisting me out of the ward, and they were assisting me out of the ward, and we passed another lady coming out of the labor ward. So she just giving birth, and I literally said, congratulations, I'm so happy for you, good luck to yourself and your baby. And she smiled and said thanks. And because obviously both our wheelchair were going past each other, but we had to wait for the buzzer, and they just coming through the buzzer, so I had enough time to tell her that. And I remember when we were in the hallway, then the South African nurse said to me, you are actually such a beautiful spirit. And I said, why'd you say that? And she was like, you literally just went through the most heart-wrenching situation. I literally held you all this morning while you cried, and still you just saw a woman that basically had something that you wish for, and you still wished her the best, and still, you know, congratulated her. And I was like, of course, you know, of course. So I'm grateful to God that I'm not envious of mothers. I'm not envious of pregnant women. I see pregnant women in the shops. I even came across this pregnancy announcement, and her baby would have been due in February, which is oh God was just blowing my brain, because my baby would have been due a few days before my birthday. Everything was just signs upon signs. My baby would have been due a few days after my birthday. Like, that would have been the most wonderful gift that God would have given me for my birthday. Baby was due, and knowing, like, my baby was due on the 16th. And knowing my birthday is on the 23rd, exactly a week from that day, and my son was a week postpartum, he stayed overdue a week, so he was 41 weeks when he was born. So if his sibling is like him, my baby would have been born around my birthday, and that would have been the most beautiful gift. But God had other plans, and I just have to bow to God's plans, because the devil really tried me, honestly. Like, my faith, the devil tried to send so much attacks to my faith. I couldn't pray for days. Like, I was heartbroken. But I'm so grateful that now, if anything, now my faith is so strong. My faith in God is so strong, because I'm still here. I am still here. And I'm grateful to God, because so many women go into childbirth and they never come out. I could have had complications. I could have had an ectopic pregnancy that would have complicated my fallopian tubes or something, but nothing like that happened. And for that, I am grateful to God. And God is God all by himself. God does not stop being God because of something that happened to me. I'm just one person out of millions of people in this world, billions of people in this world. But God is still God all by himself, because I know what God has done in my life. And I know that this was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life, but I just know that God all things work out for those who love God, and I love God, and I know that my testimony will come one day. God has all the ultimate plan. There's something my dad said, and I'm going to say it to you now, because in case there's someone watching this, or in case you're sending someone watching this sends this to someone that is going through what I went through or what I'm still going through, because it never leaves you. This is what my dad said, and my dad is such a wise man, and this resonated with me so much. He said, my daughter, you are so prayerful. I was fasting, I was praying that week that I got that news that, you know, I was still bleeding. I was still praying, and my dad said this. He was like, when we pray, we offer up our prayer. How God decides to answer us is up to God. We are not God. And that stayed with me. He was like, do you know that you could have, let's say this pregnancy had progressed, you got through 9 months, you went in to give birth to your baby, you already know you have a issue with your blood, in terms of, like, you know, I can talk more about it if anyone wants to talk, but yeah, I've got like a blood clotting disorder. So basically I can bleed to death more than like the average woman, if that makes sense. So my dad was like, my daughter, what if, God forbid, you went through 9 months and you went to give birth to this baby and you had complications and you died? Did it occur to you that God, this may be God answering your prayers? Like, when he said that to me, I got shivers, because we pray and we have expectation of how God should answer our prayer, but that's not how God works. God is God all by himself. God is omnipotent. God is omniscience. God is omnipresent. So God already knows how this would have planned out, and that may not have not been the case, but that gave me a new perspective, that for God to have seen me go through this, for God to have allowed this to happen, there's a greater reason, and that is helping me in my healing. It really is, because honestly, the statistic of Black women that are dying, having complications in this United Kingdom is shocking and horrendous, honestly. And if this has happened to me, all I can just say is I did not do anything. And that's one thing I want to say to anyone watching this: you did not do anything to cause your baby to go. You didn't do anything, because I went through that, and that's what I'm saying. It was not your fault. It is not your fault. It was never your fault. It was never your fault. And I mean this from the depth of my heart, because I needed someone to say this to me, which they did. I had loads of people that said this to me, but it didn't even enter me until I said it to myself. So please tell yourself, it is not your fault. These things happen, my dear, and unfortunately we just happen to be someone that it happened to, but it is not your fault. So I think the last point I want to make is just, I'm grateful, so grateful to my family, my parents, my sister, my brothers. So I think you know, the word strong, it's just, the meaning for it has really changed for me. It really has changed. Yeah, because I don't know what the word strong means anymore. I know it's a kind word. People use it to, you know, encourage people to be strong, but what is even strong? Like, I don't say that word anymore. I don't, especially when it's towards someone that can't be strong or is grieving. It's just like, oof, how do they be strong? Like, I remember asking someone, how do I be strong? Where do I buy this strength? Where do I get this strength from? You know, in the movies where you can, you know, those like, you know, if the sci-fi or others where you can draw magic from someone, where do I draw strength from? Where? Obviously now, looking in hindsight, maybe they meant draw strength from God, but man, that boggled my mind. I was like, how do I become strong? Where is strong a drink? Is it like an energy drink I can drink and be strong? Like, I would gladly buy that. So yeah, I definitely won't be using strong or encouraging anyone to be strong. Like, heal at your own pace, but just know that I will be here for you, whatever you need. That's what I'll be telling people, and obviously sending them this video. But yeah, I'm just grateful to my support system, my husband that has been with me through all the ugly parts of this grief. He really has been the MVP. been through when times where I would just be crying on the floor, I'd be in the dark crying, being with me all through the hospital, carrying me, taking me from one place to another, encouraging me, reassuring me, loving me. I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for people around me, my family, my siblings, my sister. I love you, girl. My parents, my in-laws, my mother-in-law specifically, and my friends. Honestly, I don't deserve you guys, man. You know, those that showed up and showed out, and those that didn't. Thank you, because everything it's a learning process. It really opened my eyes to, you know, how much people valued me. And you know, and I know people are like, oh, but you know, you can't expect people to show up. Yeah, excuse me. The thing is, you see, myself, I like to believe that I show up for my friends, and I, you know, going forward I will show up more. But honestly, this country just makes people so isolated. Everyone stays on their own, and that was the first time in such a long time that, you know, you experience this outpouring of love. Even people that were far away were showing their love in different ways, you know. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that. You don't have to be physically there to show your love and to support someone that is really going through a horrible time. You don't have to be physically there. You can send flowers ahead of you. You can send food ahead of you. Food is so important, man. Don't underestimate food, or do not underestimate food. Yeah, you can send love ahead of you. You can send prayers ahead of you. Like, you don't have to do some elaborate thing. But yeah, yeah, I'm grateful. I really am, and I'm grateful for you guys. If you watched up until this end of this video, I'm so grateful for you, because this has allowed me to open up and talk about, I don't think I've gone into this much detail with anybody. So yeah, this was a huge healing exercise for me, one that I do not take for granted, and one that I pray is received with so much kindness, because man, it was the hardest thing for me to do. I've put this off for so long, trying to film this video, but I'm just like, you know what, how can I carry on like I didn't get pregnant and have a baby and then lose my baby? And even that word, lose my baby, that's a word that I will not be using, and I try my best to correct myself. And even when I'm talking to someone that has lost a baby or is experiencing child loss, I'll be like, I'm so sorry you're experiencing child loss. Or I'll say, oh my God, I'm so sorry that your child has gone back to be with God. Because I feel like the word, yeah, she lost her baby, it's like, did I go into the shop and lose my baby there? Like, did I go into the woods and lose my baby there? Like, it had no active, like, except if someone purposefully tried to get rid of their baby. But if you're experiencing miscarriage that had no fault of your own, how in the world do the sentence, she's lost a baby, or even when people internalize it, and I probably have done that a few times, or I lost my baby, that is like internalizing, putting the guilt. No wonder moms are feeling that, you know, feeling so guilty about over child loss, because we've gone and internalized it to ourselves. Oh, I lost my baby, or my baby, oh yeah, I miscarried, or my, no, you didn't miscarry. You didn't wake up today and be like, today I'm gonna miscarry. No. So like, I want to be the change I want to see. I'm starting with myself. None of that language. Even when I talk to my friends and they're using that language, I stop them and I'm like, sis, please, you did not miscarry. You did not lose your child. It was out of your hands, sis. It really was out of your hands. It was out of your hands, sis. Please, let's not use that word. You did not lose it. Take the blame away from yourself. Take it away from yourself. You didn't lose the baby. You didn't. You didn't, sis. You really didn't. Clarity-wise, my perspective has changed, and life has changed so much. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm here. Yeah. So the next video, I'll show a clip of when I told my husband, because it was a beautiful moment, one that I planned out for a while. When I told my mother-in-law, because she lived with us at that time. My brother as well was in that video. So yeah, look out for it. Look out for it, because it was a beautiful moment. Yeah, that'll be the next video. I'll make it in the form of a vlog. That'll be the next video. Okay, so I hope to see you in that video. I really do. I hope to see you in that video. If you don't know what to say, please just leave a prayer for me down in the comment section. Just leave a prayer for me, and I will appreciate it so much. Or leave a message of hope. Don't just see this video and then move on to the next. Comment down below, because every single one of them, best believe I will respond to them, and I will appreciate them, and I will internalize them. So please, like this video if you liked it, share it with someone that you know needs it. So please feel free to reach out to me if you want to. Comment down below if you want to. If you want to message me privately, please, I'm very open and friendly. Hop into my DM on Instagram, message me on TikTok, anywhere you want, to be honest, but Instagram is probably the best, and I will gladly have a full-blown conversation with you. We'll have voice notes. If you prefer a call on Instagram, we can call on Instagram. Like, I just want to be there for you. Like, honestly, it breaks my heart that so many women are going through this alone, going through this in silence, going through this in so much fear of what people are going to think. I don't care what people are going to think. If people want to laugh and mock me, I don't mind, you know, but please never be too afraid or too ashamed to talk about what you've gone through, the struggles that you've gone through, because my goodness, what a struggle this is. What a heartbreaking process this was. So please feel free to open up. I remember I had a lot of objections to me wanting to make this video. Well, this is my story. This is my life. This is a baby that grew within my womb. And yes, I have every right to talk about her. And I don't want her to be forgotten like that. I don't want her to just be something that is shushed and hidden under the carpet. No. You know, and that is one thing that I hope that I'm able to help, is to break the stigma that affects so many women around miscarriage. There's so much stigma, there's so much hush, 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 hush. Like, you would not believe the amount of my friends that when I told them that I'm going through this, they were like, oh sis, I went through this 2 months ago, I went through this a year ago, I'm like, what? A lot of women are carrying these hurts, this heartbreak, carrying it around with them, because they don't have anyone to share with, and our society has not made women feel open and welcomed enough to talk about this. It's always like, oh, keep that to yourself. Oh, no, it starts with me. I want to be the change I want to see, and that's why I confidently made this video without no reservations. I don't care what anyone has to think. I don't care if I'm stigmatized. I don't care if this carries a stigma, because the African community, the Nigerian community, the stigma is rife, especially around miscarriages. There's huge stigma, and it breaks my heart. It really does. But you know, I'm stronger than that. It probably would have affected me months ago, but not now. I'm stronger than that, and I don't mind. However this video turns out and plays out, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And if I get backlash, which I probably will, I don't mind. I really don't mind. But yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. I love you guys so much. Sending lots of love and light to you. Once again, my name is Cynthia, and I love you. And God loves you more. God really does. All right, take care. Bye.